Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Deep Science podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Copey, joined as always by Dr. G.C. Dilsaver. And here we seek to restore the image of God in individuals, marriages, and families. Once again, talking about all things having to do with psychomoralism. Okay, so Dr. Dilsaver, last time we were talking about some of the terms contained in psychomoralism. We went over the term mental itself, how it's sort of this arena, this intersection between the body, the physical, and also the soul, the non-physical. And we saw that, even when there's deficiencies in the flesh, like some sort of severe mental retardation, the soul is still operating there, just sort of on an unseen level. So it's up to you.
Well, of course,
Go ahead.
It's still operating. That's not saying much, but of course, the person's still alive. No, we're claiming that. I mean, we're theorizing again that this shows the fluidity of the intelligence, i.e., fluidity, the spiritual fluidity, if you will, of the intelligence that in the human person needs a physical organicity to manifest itself and to gain knowledge. That is what we see that again I mentioned in that autistic savant phenomenon. So it really gives further proof to the fact that the soul is a source of intelligence, and that in the human person it works through the organicity of the brain. And again, we talk about that, right in that area, that gray area, but between the soul and the brain, I would call the mental. I think that's the proper concept. Now, however, if we go back to the mental health system, which calls itself the mental health system, or alternatively, the behavioral health system. Interesting, huh? You see those two terms used interchangeably. Mental and behavioral, is that the same thing? And of course, with the mental health profession, as always, they don't define terms. It's easier that way. But what mental or behavioral really means in their lingo, and this is the scary part, is that they're concerned with the way you think and the way you act. Not your well-being, not whether you're ascending to truth, not whether or not you're able to choose the highest good over lowest and detrimental goods. No, they're concerned with how you think and how you act and how you feel. And that is then determined by what they consider proper thinking and proper acting. So psychomoralism is not only an alternative to the mental health system, but it's actually its antidote. And psychomoralism is really an answer to the dire straits of third millennial tech-narcissistic man who is enslaved. He's enslaved by his desires, his wants and needs, his egoistic desires, and he's also enslaved through that same egoistic desire. He's also enslaved and manipulated through there. That is how we're manipulated. That's how we're controlled. And of course, then the powers that be, the mental health system, which is merely a organ of the state, the techno-totalitarian state, if you will, it's used as an organ of that state and often weaponized then to make sure that the citizens of that state are thinking correctly and acting correctly. So it's a very dangerous thing to a very dangerous apparatus we have in place here, and that's given authority, that people give authority to, simply because it claims to be valid. The only validity it has is the backing of the state and the pharmaceutical companies. Period. Psychoanalytic's validity, of course, is in its true anthropology And why do we have the true anthropology and psychoanalytics? And what do we use it for? Clinically? We use it humanely? We use it to what? Yes, break that enslavement, break that manipulation, which again, the mental health system only increases, be it through the use of psychotropic drugs or ego-enhancing talk therapies that cause you to be addicted to your therapist as well, because he affirms you, he likes you, he's on your side, even if nobody else is. But psychoanalytics then is this pro-offer to the world, to humanity. Why? Because what do they seek? They seek liberation. They seek freedom. They seek to be able to choose, to be fully human and choose. That means they have to be fully open to reality so they can choose. And then they also have to find the courage to choose. That choose as the good, and that takes love. So that's volition and will. But that's making a person truly human, truly free. And that is what the world's seeking. That is what we all want. We want to be truly human. But whereas the powers that be it the mental health system, the state, what have you, they reduce us down to quantifiable entities, soulless entities that can be enslaved, that can be manipulated, indeed, can be slaughtered. So psychoanalytics is really an antidote to the enslavement of humanity on the natural level.
It's sort of scary to think that, something that's meant to help humanity, like psychological intervention, is now just so embedded, intertwined, controlled by the state with all of its different arms and things. I mean, all these apparatuses are connected. You talk about the state, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry. They're all sort of working together, and it's, I think about the motivations. Is it monetary? Is it control of people? Is it, who knows? Different things for various people.
Well, kind of, it's the world, the flesh, the devil, the state, at all. That's, we don't have to question that. I think as Christians, this world is imploding, is collapsing, and the kingdom is continuing in spite of that, or even thriving because of it. However, that kingdom, again, as we've talked about before, though, let's face it, who's going to take up the slack for that? Who's going to actually implement psychoanalytics? Well, okay, in this case, it'd be someone very schooled and steeped in our Western philosophical tradition of the Imago Dei, and again, which is very much expressed in Thomism and the neo-Thomistic outcrops from that. And that's an essential aspect. It has to be there, otherwise the human person does not have any other dignity than a mere animal. But so this reduction of the human person down, by all those apparatuses, the world, especially the world, the state, that's what they do. However, we are going to express the Imago Dei, and that's what psychoanalytics does. Who's we? Well, Christians. Well, the biggest Christian church out there, the one that's most involved in the mental health system, education, all those things, is the Catholic Church. But Catholicism has been untrue, to the mission of that church. And what's the support? It doesn't support psychoanalytics, except on the grassroots level, and I guess that's how it should be. But no, it supports the mental health system. Catholic Charities is basically an agent of the state that also takes money from you, from the pews. So it's fed both ways, and it's a monster. There's nothing Catholic about it, and it's not really charitable. It's charitable in the sense that, yes, they do have services for very little or no pay, and you get what you pay for. But they're also not really charitable at all, because they don't understand the human person in the image of God, much less as the Christian, as a person who is to be indwelled by Christ himself. So we've dropped the ball completely and totally because we've compromised. But that mental health system and those conceptualizations, much less that whole state, insurance, pharmaceutical, mental health profession cabal, is antithetical to both true human anthropology on the natural level and a Christian teleology on the supernatural level.
So is this why it's important to just sort of start anew with Christian psychology? It's been something that's been so distorted, and you have created this huge apparatus where we just have to start over, like a lot of what our Catholic schools are doing. You know, these big legacy schools out there, and I'm not even talking about universities, some high schools, and people are just saying, you know, to heck with that, and they're starting their own homeschool group or, you know, classical education group or whatever it is. They're starting from scratch. It's grassroots.
Yeah, they're starting from scratch, maybe in a way, started administratively from scratch, but for them, meaning starting from scratch means going back to a classical curriculum, etc. They're not really starting from scratch. They're not really applying things. They're trying to just, you know, do something that was there before, and they consider Catholic. Again, that's just parenthetical, but I wouldn't say that classical education is necessarily Catholic education. But be that as it may. No, this is not starting from scratch. No way. This is starting from the true roots of clinical psychology and experimental psychology, which has its own roots in philosophical psychology, specifically Thomistic psychology. So this is the outcrop of that. So it's not starting from scratch at all. And but nonetheless, yes, you know, as we mentioned before, early on in my career, I was giving presentations to APA and everything else, and out there, you know, thinking that we could somehow make inroads into that system, and that's just not possible. Again, that was part of my own mistake. I think even as a Christian, you know, thinking that we're supposed to work within the system. No, the kingdom's not of this world. So we create our own system, which is going to be beneficial for all humanity, obviously, and it's going to be a leaven within that, the greater world or fallen world. However, the compromises, the equivocations, not to mention just the fact that, yes, as far as the power structure goes, every single clinician that is licensed is promising, is saying that I agree to, regardless of what my patient's needs are, my therapist's needs are, regardless of their situation, I will turn over every single record I have on him to the state, for whatever reason the state, the court requires. And that can be in a hostile divorce settlement or anything else, doesn't matter. You want every single note that they say that it's theirs. So I'm just an agent. You know, if you're a clinician, you're just an agent of the state. So I was working within that system. Now, by the grace of God, being a old Southern California rebel without a cause, maybe, but I don't have a problem bucking the system. So I flew under the radar the whole time. You know, really, with what I was really doing, you know, which is contrary to the system. But I never realized, you know, I know philosophically was different. I didn't expect them to understand the anthropology. But, you know, I still just didn't realize the deep, you know, godless corruption that is involved in deep state organizations like the unelected mental health system. You have people there controlling the entire mental health system that are unelected, that are placed there and given, you know, validation by, again, insurance, pharmaceutical companies, and the state. So, in any case, you know, by the grace of God, we pulled out of that. Yeah, it forced me to do it because I'm pretty lazy, you know. I'm not going to change anything if it's working. But again, you know, they forced me to do it because I could not acquiesce to their desires for me to become an agent for actually a state I wasn't even living in, and impose a mental health court, a mental health court sentence, a mental health court. That's Orwellian in itself, isn't it? Wouldn't it be horrible? Oh shoot, man! Oh no, I got to go to the mental health court. Wouldn't you be scared? You're right. What are they gonna do? They're gonna tie you down. They're gonna, who knows? Lobotomy. But his more humane sentence was he was sentenced to a psychotropic medication, and he'd be given shots of it. Every month or a couple months. They can give him shots with time release, and it will keep them in this chemical straitjacket for the rest of their lives. In fact, they only increased symptomology, never allowed them to crawl out of that deep hole of mental confusion, drug-induced calm, and
That's really a stupor, isn't it?
it's a semi-stupor. Yeah, it is. And that's how you judge a medication, right? How much is still functional and yet not putting the person to a stupor. That's how you do it.
So this is interesting. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who realize that the state, if they deem appropriate, can pump you up with drugs for your unforeseeable future. There's really no end date in mind.
Right. Now that's that's usually the alternative to either going to jail or being involuntarily committed, that kind of thing. So that is what they can do, and it's a very scary thing. But again, the great thing is, let's not harp on that. The world, the flesh, the devil, the state, the mental health system, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, they're all on that. And again, I have nothing against, insurance, there's good things about all this stuff. That's all good. However, I'd much rather have my insurance and my pharmacy and everything else on a local level, and probably include some more natural remedies, obviously, than the medication of the mental health system. We'll talk about this in some future episodes too, but there's certain drugs, that enhance a person's ability to receive the real, choose the good and choose the truth and act upon the good, to be truly human. Others dampen that. So we're going to use all medications, and it doesn't matter even if it's anesthetizing or even stupor inducing, if somehow it's going to help, if it's going to help me feel my imago Dei. And again, oftentimes the alleviation of just pain or an anxiety is called for to do that. But only insofar as to allow the person then to gain a greater well-being, essential human well-being.
And so you're speaking now of not necessarily, the common psychotropic drugs. You're talking about maybe more supplemental stuff.
Well, yeah, we'll see now. Well, yeah, I don't want to get into that, Kyra, because that's a whole. We'll have a drug class or drug cast later on. We can go into the very specifics of all the types of medication. It's a little bit of a you have to make distinctions. Understand it. People think, oh, drugs are bad. No, all drugs are bad. No, whatever. And what's that mean? So, or drugs are good, or some drugs are good, some drugs are bad. The drugs that the pharmaceutical company sells you, which we missed our podcast last week, and actually was because I had a case of contact dermatitis. But be that as it may, I go through the VA, right? So it's free, and as you know, I did give my finger to the core, but you can take that part out if you want, Kyle. But they prescribed me a salve. It's just a tube, an ointment tube. Can you guess how much it costs? I'm not paying a penny, but guess how much it costs. Give me a guess. Little tube, rub on my skin.
Cost you or cost insurance?
I know. Yeah. Well, that costs us too, right? Indirectly. Yeah. Well, how much do you think? Yes.
Heck,
Little employment.
little too alignment. I don't know. Let's say I go to CVS, I buy one for $8 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, at times 10. Exactly times 10. Exactly times 10.
Wow.
I kid you not. I kid you not. $800. That's how much you're charging. Now, is that a cabal? The pharmaceutical company is charging,
No, that's
The
just
insurance
how
company,
much
that
it costs
much
to make. That's all those parts are very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so we have this, this whole thing. Those are okay to take, and those are one. And any medications have these little warnings on their boxes that say this may cause suicide, or depression, or have you. All those things it's supposed to alleviate. Those things are okay. But those things that the state can't regulate, we have to watch those. Those could be dangerous, So, and those will be the more natural remedies that are out there. And so we always, and we try to treat people systemically, and that's the whole concept. Again, psychomoralytics. It frees the human person. It frees their soul first and their spirit, right? Because that's what informs the body. But we do what we can with the body to keep it, so we can fulfill, so we can respond to that spirit. But that spirit is not determinative on the health of that body. In fact, we're going to find, I think we find that the greatest manifestations of human spirit are made in those that actually are quite crucified in body, but they still have the spirit to transcend. And that's really what, again, that is what we want to free humanity to do. What we want to free each of us. We all seek that. I want, that we have the spirit, an unquenchable, unconquerable spirit that will always rise above, be it the anarchy on one side or the totalitarianism on the other side. Will transcend that in human dignity of being this person that, again, can ascend to truth and choose the good. And that's divine. And so anybody down here that tries to tell us we're not divine, is crazy. And Christians show the way for that, of course, because we are called to be divinized.
Yeah, I like that image of the rising of the human spirit, because you see this in people's lives sometimes. They are going through some really terrible things, but oftentimes through work like we're talking about, people rise beyond these circumstances, and it's just amazing. You think people are down and out, but it happens where they rise up.
Well, this is the final equation at the end of life for the human person, because it's every single person born into this veil of tears that has to choose. And to say, I'm going to love, and I'm going to hope, and even though things can be totally dark, even though one, actually, even if one has no hope, the human person, let's say they have no faith. That's not mean they don't know there's a God. They know there's a God, but they may not be too happy with him. And so they don't really have faith, if you will. He cares about them. This life is a meat grinder, and you die. Okay, so okay, that's a that's a realistic assumption. I wish more people had that one, at least wise. There's certain maturation in that. So every human person that is called to that, to accept that reality. And what's going to cause, keep them from becoming just totally resigned and bitter about the whole thing is that they can ascend to the truth that life is a meat grinder, but they can still love. They can still love the good in life. They can still love the good in life, even though it means feeling the loss of that good and sorrow. See? not feeling sorry for themselves, not falling into depression, but loving. Saying, no, it's not about me. Obviously, it's not about loving myself. It's about just accepting this reality. And I can love that which is good in this reality. And I can feel the pain of the fact that this is all passing away. Absolutely. And we as Christians should do that too. See? And unfortunately, Christians don't do it either. They can use their faith just as an opiate, just like a psychotropic. I'm saved, I'm going to prosper. Or it's okay, Catholics do this too. I'm going to kind of just try to be good here, and I'm going to heaven. It's all good, I'm in a state of sanctifying grace. I'm good, and they're just going through life without really embracing the fact that the true faith leads us deeper into reality. It does not inure us from it.
So just to finish up here, we're talking about the mental health system. There's a lot of various ways that the mental health system manifests itself. I think we call those the mental health professions, correct? And what are some of those various professions?
Well, I mean, you name it, right? So there's the doctoral profession would be the psychologists, and that includes clinical psychologists. Psychologists are also experimental psychologists. They run rats, etc. They do all sorts of studies, but clinical psychologists intervene, treat a person, and then there's the psychiatrist, who is the medical mental health professional. And psychiatry today has been relegated pretty much just to writing scripts for medications. It's a good gig, but it's not a real highly respected profession in the medical field itself. But because again, we talked about that. It's not even based on a true medical nosology. So DSM is not a medical or scientific manual whatsoever. So I have all those at the doctoral level. Then you go down, there's various, the social workers, the addiction counselors, the school counselors, all those things. And they all really have, a common ethos. School counseling, for instance, there's been in the public school system now, there's been for many decades, the implementation of the mental health system's religion of self-esteem. And that's what they want to imbue the children with, etc., which is, again, exactly what a mental health therapist does. He's there to make you feel good about yourself, build your self-esteem. And again, that's why the minute you go out there in the world and it starts hitting the fan, you're kind of longing for your next appointment. So you make you feel good again about yourself. So it's all one piece. And again, we're not saying that you can use self-esteem. You can make a person help a person feel good about themselves, even enhance their ego to some extent, if you will, tactically to achieve the strategy of helping them die to themselves. So there's certain things you don't bring aspects that are going to be too brutalizing to that prize of love out of time or unseasonably. So of course that is a psychotherapeutic, psychoanalytic art to do that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that word art when you talked about that, because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want to say that self-esteem is totally worthless and we're never going to talk about it. But like you were saying, that there's a way to use it to bring them deeper to where they need to be. We don't want to end at self-esteem.
Right. It has to be, because again, like I said, what is it? I can have self-esteem because I have, intellectual gifts that I developed. I mean, I can have self-esteem because I have gifts that God gave me. Do I have physical gifts or intellectual gifts or what have you? That's probably not really, doesn't make much sense. But what I do with those gifts, okay, I try. And because why? That shows the human spirit, see. So we want to always, focus on that inner result. What is that human spirit? And that spirit is what we should esteem. I don't esteem, someone that is victorious and it's easy for him, or it was a sheer deal. We esteem the underdog. But ultimately, too, the ultimate victory is not if we win or lose. And contrary to Saint Vincent Lombardi, it is how you play the game. That's all that matters. Not if we win or lose. Right, Vince? Catholic Vince? You wouldn't tell Lord Jesus Christ that. You didn't have to go to Jerusalem, Jesus. Maybe he was just paraphrasing Peter.
Yep. Yeah. He's Lombardi's not a saint yet, but probably for good reason.
I'd canonize him.
Yeah. Yeah. The school of the hard knocks, the church of the hard knocks. All right. Well, Doctor, that's about all the time we have. We're going to wrap it up here. Again, our website is souldeepscience.com, and we are still taking enrollments for our brand new, totally 100% online program, the Institute of Psychomoralitics, to become a certified clinical psychomoralician. And you can check that out again at souldeepscience.com. Go ahead.
And just a minor correction is that, of course, it's not totally online. I mean, it's going to be online academically, but we do have planned the retreats, etc., because of the deep need for, again, if we have this mission to help humanity achieve its fullness in that humanity, freedom, breaking the fetters of the world, the flesh, devil, and the state, and the mental health system, well, then we're on the front lines. And this is a time fraught with perils and powers and all sorts of stuff going on and movements. And this is the time then really, to stand together. And we need to do so just as individuals, as people that have to do this themselves. We have to as well encourage each other. So as clinicians, we build a community of clinicians, no matter how scattered we are across the world, and by the grace of God, that's going to be the case. We will have a community of clinicians that can have access to each other. Again, thank God, to technology. We'll have that, and so that's very, very necessary. I can only say that from my own experience, because doing this on my own, the last 20 some years is just is difficult, but it's a calling, I suppose, I had to do. But to have other clinicians there is such a wonderful thing, and I look forward to that myself.
Right. Yeah. We definitely need both. We thank God for the blessings of the technologies. The positive side of the technology is that we can do these things and use them for good purposes, but we also need that physical human connection as well. And that is part of our program at the Institute for Psychomoralitics. There'll be in-person retreats as part of the program. Where our students who are gathering now, there are many people signing up for these courses, and we ask you to join us. Once again, it's souldeepscience.com if you're interested in that, or if you need help from a trained clinician, you could also visit that website as well. So, Dr. Dilsaver.
Right. And Kyle, one more thing about those retreats or those different groups that we have as clinicians, and even therapists and clinicians. There's really not a strong demarcation, and we're all on the same path and on to the same process. But in these retreats in person, we really then take the whole person, not just academically to pass psychobiotics, but the whole person. That includes their faith, their family situation, everything. And so it's on the we're going through the psychomoralic process, maybe the purgative and sanctification process. So we want to have the whole person brought there. And again, having that physical proximity is very important. And while internet sessions, video conference sessions are very, very effective, and retreats are sometimes very wonderful as well for therapists to go on as well.
Yeah, that's some of our literature speaks to that. We talk about the Institute being a community, not just of people receiving the therapy, the therapists, but also the clinicians are going through it themselves, as you said.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, everyone, we once again thank you, and we look forward to having you join us in our next episode. God bless you.